Oh shit, we're live again! Welcome back to the Authority on Wrestling podcast. I am your host, Maddie McKeegs. With me as always, Scumbag Mike, the only man that has made all 11 episodes at this point. We're on episode 11.
I'm the workhorse of this.
I missed 2. Brent's off on assignment today. We do have a great guest, though. We have Ryan Fogarty from the Average Nobody's podcast, and he also does all the NXT columns for Top Rope Press. So, Ryan, what's the website there? Just topropepress.com?
Yep, just topropepress.com. And I do the NXT preview blogs, the NXT results pieces, and I do all their takeover stuff as well. So, thanks for having me on.
He's the man to have today. Thank you so much, man. I work with Ryan, so we frequently discuss wrestling on company time.
Oh, nice.
Best part of my day, I'm not going to lie. It's always fun when you can get some wrestling talking.
Absolutely.
Especially your job. You have people complaining all day. And then you get to talk wrestling. So it works.
Makes my job easier.
So, but anyway, I wanted to start off. I know Mike is going to be covering it on the B Plus Players podcast with the NXT Takeover Special, and you're doing Ring of Honor as well, right?
Yeah, Reeves. Yeah.
So that's coming. That should be up the same time.
It'll probably be up before this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
I'm probably going to put this out Thursday.
Wow, you're crossing the
finish line. I have a lot of editing to do.
So that'll be out soon. But with Ryan here, I definitely wanted to get your impressions on the Takeover Special and the implications, I guess, resulting from that to the larger NXT universe, if you will.
Yeah. Take NXT for me. It's always a little different because you always have that thought in the back of your mind of when they're putting together the matches, who's going to win, who's going to lose. It's different from Raw and SmackDown because of the promotion aspect, where, take this Saturday, Nakamura and Rude are in the main event. Rude beats him again, the second straight takeover. Now, what part of that had to do with Nakamura's impending promotion? So that's kind of the cool aspect to it for me. It's not just, who should win here. It's, future plans, the Revival losing in the triple threat match, and
next night.
Yeah. So I thought the show was really good. A little surprised there was no title changes.
Yeah.
But I like the stories that were told. I like that Asuka got a little shook. She saw Ember Moon. I think it kind of took her by surprise a little bit, and all of a sudden she sees her going on the top rope. She's going to hit that solar eclipse, or the eclipse. I forgot what it's called. But
it's just the eclipse.
And then she knocks referee into the ropes. So that's really the first time Asuka's had to resort to something like that to win.
Absolutely. And Ember Moon came out looking like a star. I mean, for how new she is in the company, she definitely got a chance to shine in the no pun intended in the in that match. But yeah, that was a great match, and
she's gonna be I think the focal point of the Divas division. Women's division.
Oh man, you're living in the past.
Shit, I just did that. Yeah, I think when she gets up there, because right now Charlotte, I feel, is the centerpiece, and Sasha. I know Bayley's the champion right now, and then SmackDown. I think they're still figuring that one out. I don't know if.
The way they booked the women's matches at Mania definitely went towards. They don't really have, neither brand has that one-on-one feud that I think they felt comfortable enough putting on a WrestleMania card. Whereas Asuka and Ember Moon, they're far and away in NXT. I mean, you have the Peyton Royces and Billie Kays. I like Nikki Cross too, but she's still more part of Sanity than her own thing. Same thing with Ruby Riott.
Which is cool, because how long... It's been a while, since we've seen a faction, really. Because I don't consider the New Day a faction. I guess the Wyatt family, when they have 4 members, I guess I would consider them one. But
right.
Because when there's, I don't know, I feel like you need 4 members to be a faction, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think that's a good barometer to judge that. And Sanity, just going back to TakeOver, Sanity won again. Yeah. Clean. And then that Killian Dane is really, really impressive.
He's a big boy, and he goes.
And even though Ty Dillinger would add a couple people, he added Roderick Strong and No Way Jose, and then they added Ruby Riott.
Yeah, No Way Jose got taken out.
Yep, so then Ono comes in. Yep. So technically it's 4-on-4, but Killian Dane's not your average guy, so he's always that X Factor who can take it.
And not only that, they told as they always do tell the story, Sanity's been a functioning unit. And then you have just a couple of guys that just got thrown together, especially with Cassius Ohno getting in at the last minute. So they weren't the unit that they could have been. Speaking of Ty Dillinger, he just debuted on SmackDown. He's going up against...
Whoa!
Wow.
That was pretty incredible. We are watching SmackDown live as we record this, and right on cue, Kurt Hawkins was kind of promo, and then Ty Dillinger comes out, and they're having a match right now.
Couldn't have planned that better.
No, that's
quite
incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him. I love Dillinger.
Absolutely.
He's great.
I was actually talking about this on the B Plus podcast. I mean, well, now that he's on TV, we can talk about this for a minute. But I was worried that Ty Dillinger, when he moves up to the main roster, I don't want him to get lost. I don't want him to get the Tyler Breeze treatment. I think they shouldn't bring up a person from NXT unless they have a position for them, a role for them. That's the biggest thing I don't like. Apollo Crews, man, he was starting to get up, starting to make a name for himself in NXT. The Ascension, the Vaudevillains, they were good, and they came back, and then they got moved up to the main roster. There's more people that have moved up and just dropped because they didn't have a spot for them.
Absolutely.
It's a sad fact.
Yeah, they were just almost brought up for the sake of being brought up.
Mm-hmm. American Alpha, they were on fire, and then they won the titles, but now, they didn't even have a title match at Mania.
They're still... I think they're still... they're still a big tag team. They're still a big draw. I think the issue is SmackDown's one fault is they can't figure out that tag team division to save their lives at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, half their tag team division was in the Battle Royal. So it just...
All
which was
the
odd.
tag team division
all of it was.
There was no other tag team SmackDown match.
The champs were in the Battle Royal.
Yep.
The Usos were in the Battle Royal.
Yep.
So, and that's really the only thing. I think the Usos, heel turn, the new look Usos, or whatever you want to call them, I think that's the best thing they've done with the tag division. I thought American Alpha was rushed into the championship scene.
Yeah, I think they could have waited to give them the morning at Mania. Or, I mean, I know it's a different situation now, but before Kurt Angle came in and made his debut as general manager, I would have liked to see him with American Alpha a little bit.
Well, we do have the roster shakeup next week. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if they can put them on Raw, though, because if they do go over, I think it's going to distract from everything else if they don't align them with Kurt Angle in some way. And in his position as GM, I don't know if it would make sense for him to, make an alliance like that. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
It'd be weird to have him, favoring American Alpha over any other superstars.
Yeah.
As an authority figure who has the ability to make matches and all that stuff.
And if he doesn't, the crowd is going to demand that he does.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's going to distract from everything else that's going on.
I was going to say because no authority members have ever favored wrestlers, but that's joke. But no, I agree with you. Especially Kurt Angle, who seems like he should be a respectable authority figure. He shouldn't be like the Stephanie or Triple H or that kind of authority figure. I think he should be like the good, responsible one that will.
Yeah, definitely. And we're definitely with Kurt Angle. It was a big weekend for him, so there's a lot to discuss with Kurt Angle. The elephant in the room, though, is Taker, Taker and Reigns, and I think it's only appropriate that we cover the Taker piece of this equation before we move on to the Reigns piece.
Absolutely.
But we've been talking about it for months now that Taker probably needs to hang it up. I know I've talked to Ryan about it multiple times. In fact, kind of funny story. Last week we were going on about the set. And as I've mentioned before, I'm a real production kind of geek. So when the set pictures started coming out, I was sending them to everybody. I sent them to Ryan, and the first thing we started going on about was, how's Taker gonna make it down this ramp? And then they were doing the pre-show. They were like, oh, this is an 80-yard ramp. It's the longest ramp we've ever had in WWE history. And I was like, how's he gonna make it down? They had him come up midway, so right through the escape hatch door, and. Just a really poignant finish to it, and the match was better than I expected. I don't know what you guys thought of it. But...
absolutely, I personally liked it. I enjoyed it. Going into it, and I had said in the past couple of weeks that I had hoped that Roman Reigns. He's been the last month or so. I've been kind of on the Roman Reigns train, and I know it's kind of a controversial issue. A lot of people don't like him, or it's the cool thing to kind of not like him right now. But I definitely was starting to get on board with him, and I was hoping that the match would at least have a definitive end, and it did. they had Taker mouthing the words like, "You don't have the balls to kill me." I don't know if anyone else caught that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that, no.
was right before the last move. Undertaker was on his knees and looked at.
Was that when he was on all fours and he was kind of like looking up, like winded?
Yeah, and then he looked up and he was just like, you could hear, like, I watched it twice to make sure I caught it, and he just said, "You don't have the balls to kill me." And then Roman just looked at him and was like, all right, because Roman wasn't...
He hit the ropes right after that, right? For the next spear.
Yeah, Roman at that point wasn't, like, tired or winded or anything. He just was looking at a dead man in the middle of the ring and just put him away. It was very, very poignant. But, yeah, it was Undertaker's... Seems to be his last match. That's what it kind of ended with the hat and the coat and the gloves in the middle of the ring.
I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of physicality he could endure, because the Raws leading up to that, he didn't even look like he could. You know, we talked about the video where he couldn't get in the ring.
Yeah, when he went to chokeslam Braun Strowman, it looked like he got hurt after that.
Yeah, so now you're fighting this guy who Reigns, yes, he's skilled enough to know who he's in the ring with, but at the same time, that's a physical, big dude.
He's got a stiff style, too.
Yeah. And you need that type of match. Like, I don't want to watch a match where Roman Reigns is holding back on The Undertaker because he's too old. Not in the main event of WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad they didn't. I thought they did a really great job of it, and I thought I've always been a pretty big fan of Reigns. I mean, he's had some questionable up and downs here and there, but it's really mainly on the microphone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
where
his
kills
biggest
him.
Point was.
Because if you look at that guy, he shouldn't really say much. Mm-hmm. He has the look. He's really, really good in the ring for the most part. I mean, sometimes his matches are too long, but that's not his fault.
Yeah, it's not a downside, and he's very good at emoting in the ring. He's very good at very expressive and getting his points across and making him seem like a larger-than-life character.
Absolutely.
I think the downfall was, and we've talked about this before, is when they started doing, he went out on injury, and they started doing those stupid via satellite videos, like almost on a weekly basis. And I think that's what ruined him, really, because it was, number one, he was talking too much, and it was coming off, it was the most he had ever talked up to that point, and it was coming off really corny, and they were trying to hype up his return, and instead of just letting it happen, like when Triple H tore his quad, and then all of a sudden, I think there was one promo video before he came back, and then he came back, and I was like, holy shit, Triple H is back. They rushed him back in. And I don't know, for me, that's when I started to go stay on him, because when he was in the Shield, like that last year or so with the Shield was awesome. That was a great run for him.
And it's hard to argue that all of the fans, when the Shield was together, Roman was the star of the Shield. People had hopes for Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, because you knew that Roman was going to be somebody before the Shield broke up, and you didn't want those two guys to kind of fall into nothing.
And the one that I always remember is the Rumble that Batista won.
Yeah.
Those fans, you'll never see a more pro Roman Reigns crowd than that Rumble crowd. And then the next year, he wins it and it's gone. But it's because how he was being portrayed up to that point.
Absolutely. The first time I saw it was the Survivor Series right before that, when Roman Reigns eliminated almost the whole opposing team, and the fans I went to.
Was that the one in Boston?
That was the one.
I was there. That was terrible.
Worst pay-per-view I've ever seen. But the fans were behind Roman Reigns in that.
Yeah,
match.
I do remember that match. Yeah, he was the last one. He was the last one I remember.
No, the whole Shield survived, but he pinned 4 of the other members on the team.
Oh, okay. I thought he was the. And there was only one Survivor Series match. I remember that one. Yeah, and then they had Big Show versus Orton, which is like ridiculous for the main event.
Del Rio.
Yeah, but coming back to center with Taker and Reigns, I was talking to Ryan today, and I said, you know what? I think like last night it finally clicked for him with Mike skills, and like, because he looked down, he was like, I have everybody in the palm of my hand, and then he said his line, threw the mic down, and left. And I thought it was perfectly played. I think Taker did the job. I
think the fact that he also stood there for 10 minutes, a legitimate 10 minutes, just hearing these people say everything from "fuck you, Roman" to "shut the fuck up" to "go away," and he just sat there and took it. And he would like bring the mic to his mouth, and then they would boo, and he'd pull it away. And that's when he said, "Like I have him in the palm of my hand." And then he said, "This is my yard now." Dropped the mic and walked away. It was great.
He could not have played that more perfectly.
Absolutely.
I love that, and it's if he can go forward with the less is more in his promos, because he's already got the in-ring skills, he's already got the look, and Matt, like what you said, if he's fighting anyone else WrestleMania and wins, it might not be as big. Like, he's already beaten Triple H, but I think it needed to be Undertaker, and it needed to have that finality to it for him to kind of finally. And then, just the way I still love that opening segment of Raw. I thought that was just
it was
awesome.
wonderful. And I almost wonder how much time they were allotting for that. I wonder if it ran over. I'd be curious to see like years down the road if like a production log leaks or something. But I remember sending a text out to all you guys, and I was like, I feel like they're letting the crowd burn itself out because they knew they were going to do all this shit. Okay. And WWE the last year with the crowds, because before the whole thing was let's try to counter whatever the crowd's doing to get them to stop doing it. Now they play into it, like, for instance, when they started going, CM Punk, and Stephanie was like, oh yeah, if you do that for 2 more minutes, you can last as long as Punk did. Like, instantly shut up. They are anticipating things, and they're properly countering everything instead of trying to, like, cut the head off of the beast.
One of the interesting things, I don't know if I would love to have been there last night, because, man, it seemed like the crowd knew exactly where it was going. They started with the "Thank You, Taker" chant, and then it slowly turned into like Roman sucks, and then on cue Roman comes out, and that's like it was weird to see that, like how it seemed like the fans carried that into position.
Well, they're easy to manipulate, I think, too, because anytime you go to a live event, they throw a video package up.
Oh, you're right.
It doesn't even matter. They could play a tribute to the troops package. Cena shows up, and then you get a Cena sucks chant.
Yeah.
He's not even there that night, and they start doing it. So I think with the Taker thing, they definitely were playing a Taker package before it went on air. And then, so that just naturally lended itself to that. And then the Roman Reigns thing, I think, once that, they're like, all right, send him out there,
That was really cool how it happened.
But I think Taker doing that job for Reigns, I think it's going to pay dividends for years to come because it's the most polarizing reaction. He has a more polarizing reaction now than John Cena.
Absolutely.
I
think that, I know it was kind of a necessary evil at the time because they were actually in the process of building Reigns, but I think that Reigns beating Taker did more than Lesnar beating Taker. Even though they did the Lesnar beating Taker so that the next year Reigns could have beaten Lesnar, even though things got shaken up and Seth Rollins got involved in that match. But I think that's what the build-up was for, to get Reigns his moment and be like, I beat the guy that beat the Taker.
Right.
But so I think that...
I still think Lesnar beating Taker was necessary to build Lesnar up to what he is now. Because he's... The rules don't apply to Lesnar. Yeah. He's kind of like a special circumstance. And I don't think people were taking him as seriously as they should have when he initially came back. Because they had him lose to John Cena in that Extreme Rules match, which was actually a great match.
He's fighting Big Show, though.
Yeah, like it was stupid feuds and stuff like that. And even going into that match, I didn't even care about that match. I remember the only memorable thing about that is when Taker stabbed him with the pen in the hand. And which was funny because like the next day his hand was fine. But... going into that, nobody cared about it, and then that happened, and it made it, like, probably one of the biggest matches, like, top 5 most memorable matches in Mania history, truthfully.
Oh, yeah, him beating the...
Yeah, nobody's ever going to forget about that the first time it went, and nobody's going to forget about this Reigns win either, ever, And I don't even think it'll be overshadowed by the retirement thing, so... now, the other thing was, my brother was... Actually, I read a thing today, too, JR said it. JR was handpicked by The Undertaker to call the last match, which was awesome because it's always great seeing JR back, but it's also, we've subsequently learned that it's turned into a 2-year deal with JR. We don't really know the circumstances. I think he's basically pinch hitting on announcing for certain events, and I don't know what else he'll be doing, hopefully some network specials and stuff, but... I'm really glad to have JR back, and I thought his announcing was great.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad to have him back. It sucks that it's a terrible time for him. He just lost his wife. I hope it wasn't because of that. Like, I hope they don't just like, oh, we feel bad for him, because he brings a lot more to the table than just
like a sympathy
thing. Like, JR is the voice that creates memories a lot of the time, and I'm glad to have him back for the next 2 years. Whatever he can do to help, I'm sure it'll just be added flavor to whatever they do.
Even backstage, if he's able to not necessarily travel week to week, but to talk with guys like Tom Phillips, who is getting a pretty prominent role. He's the main NXT guy now. I mean, Byron Saxton can use all the help he can get. So maybe treat David Otunga. Guys like that. Tips here and there could change him. I mean, you never know. The 3-man and 4-man booths are kind of tough in general. But
the foreman thing's odd. I'm still wrapping my head around it. Which I guess they're running it in such a way that Phillips is kind of moving pieces of the show along, and they're kind of carrying the matches. But it's weird. But Saxton, though, the juxtaposition of quality with I hate to use that term because I know he's trying, but like with Saxton, and then you have Graves and Cole. It's not good.
And Graves is just that perfect mix of he's very witty, but he's also dropping a lot of knowledge too.
Yeah.
And I like his takes, and he's not straight heel. He's not just gonna root for the bad guys, although he does tend to side with them. But I mean, he's just a perfect mix of funny and also very knowledgeable. Whereas Saxton, I mean, I can't think of one thing that he's ever said on Raw that I'm like, oh, that's
no, never.
Insight.
It comes off like a take a kid to work day, and they were like, oh, you could do a match, and it's. I mean, he gets the job done, but it's always like every time Bayley comes out, I'm just like I can't listen to Saxton. I almost have to put the TV on mute because he gets like this faux excitement.
Yeah.
And it just comes off really, and it's hilarious because Corey Graves is all over him about it, like constantly. But one thing I do like about Graves though is he doesn't disparage like talent. Like JBL is terrible with JBL. I think single-handedly, and I love JBL, but he single-handedly destroyed the Stardust gimmick
and the Ascension
because it's like, oh, look at these goofs.
And they were the hottest tag team in NXT at the time.
Because it doesn't come across as like, oh, this is like a bad guy announcer. It's like, this guy really hates these guys. Are these guys really this bad?
And not only that, like people take him at his word because he had a long career and he's very intelligent in the business. And so people are like, oh, if he doesn't like him, why should we care?
And he used to be the general manager of NXT when the Ascension were the tag team champions.
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, if you're looking back at that, like as I was, I'm like,
which is odd.
That's weird. Yeah. And then if you're a fan who doesn't know the Ascension, you're like, well, you're supposed to be introducing them to my universe, and now you're introducing them like these guys are hot garbage. Why am I even going to pay attention?
Because Graves has carryover. So when the Revival came in last night, he was actually like he starts running down how impressive they are, and like the name of the game is cutting off half the ring, and JBL like he did. I had completely forgotten about the GM stint in NXT. He never actually references it. It's like it doesn't cross over at all, and maybe that's because it wasn't too long, right? It was
he was like an interim one.
Before Regal.
Yeah. But still, he could technically say what he could say. I was involved in NXT for years. You can really. The beauty of that business is you can kind of make it up as you go. To not use it is kind of silly when there's so many NXT guys on their main roster. Especially
like the Ascension, they were dominant in NXT. Like I thought they were going to come up to the main roster and clean house, and I think the makeup didn't help them. I think that was, and I know they always kind of tweak people when they come up, but it was too close to Demolition and the Road Warriors, and that's what. And then they had them do that awful promo where they tried to address it.
Yeah,
you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. And they said that they were better than, but that was their second week after they had already been buried initially.
And then you're having the New Age Outlaws come back, and Nash and Hall beat the crap out of them. And it's like,
it's not fair to them.
Oh, I forgot. Oh yeah, they had that was like Hulk Hogan Day or
they just had all the old timers beat them up, and it's like, I mean,
I truly believe that the Ascension and Tyler Breeze are the two worst stories to come out of NXT. Like it sucks for them.
It really
Tyler Breeze was huge too.
He was getting over so much in NXT, and it was sad to see him.
Well, I read a lot that, and I mean, obviously, I don't know how true this is, but I assume it is. Vince he was like, why is he walking around with a selfie stick? Like, what is this? I don't get it. Which, if it's true, that's hilarious. But But yeah, it's definitely and when Brent's on, he can't get enough of Tyler Breeze and Fandango. No, Fandango's the one that he loves Fandango.
He wants Fandango #1 pick in the draft.
That's like me with Mickey
I don't think
James.
anybody's gonna fight him for it.
Yeah.
He's gonna.
So, but JR though, getting back to that, I do think he's going to be able to offer a ton. You know, and it's like unquestionable. But it was a little piece of news. We got into it briefly, but Revival is on the main roster now, which is the Raw Tag Division. Wow, I mean, we got the Revival, and we also just had the Hardys come back too, which is huge. And actually, if we can put a pause on that for a second, it looks like Shinsuke Nakamura is debuting on SmackDown.
We might be getting ahead of ourselves.
All right, so we're back. Took a little pause there for a second because we have SmackDown on the background. I was just about to talk about some of the debuts that we had from NXT, and then a violinist appears, and Shinsuke Nakamura walks out. Yep. And the Miz exits the ring. So he didn't talk. We don't know what's going on. Yep. He's on the main roster, and as Ryan was saying earlier, like how much of Bobby Roode going over is because Shinsuke Nakamura, his time is coming. There it is. There it is.
I think SmackDown. I think that's going to be a good spot for him. I think Miz is a perfect if he's going to end up fighting the Miz because Cena's going to be gone. I think for a while. He's got a bunch of movies to film, and that his role in WrestleMania definitely seemed to kind of put an end to his character for the time being. Like, there's nothing really for him to follow
He has
up
arcs
on.
now that he runs.
Yeah, I mean, he beat The Miz. He proposed to Nikki. So, I don't know. I think Miz is a good way to introduce Nakamura to the main roster.
He can handle the talking, too.
Yeah, he can handle the talking. Nakamura can just kind of laugh him off and then
kick him.
Yeah,
because I know NXT, he does some talking.
Oh yeah,
but I don't think you can have him with and I don't want to seem taboo or anything, but with how strong his accent is, I think his charisma and his persona is going to get him over more than any mic skills are.
Do you know who's surprisingly good with like his language and everything? It's Tozawa.
Yeah.
Like, I was
he
impressed.
sounds great.
I didn't know. I saw a little bit of him in Dragon Gate, but I didn't know he was actually that good. He's very well.
He knows how to yell.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He does. He does know how to yell. But
so
I think a good Nakamura feud is going to be where he doesn't necessarily have to talk on the mic too often because he's one of those guys who's similar to what you said of Reigns. Nakamura is very good expressing himself non-verbally with facial emotions, with the way he moves his body.
Very charismatic.
So less is more, I think, for him too, as far as the
I think he's
promo
going to
department.
move a shitload of merch for them. I don't know why. I just get that feeling. So that's going to be good. But we also had the Revival come up on Raw yesterday, which was awesome. That was long overdue. As Ryan and I have talked about, I still think, was that 2 takeovers back now? The one with them and DIY?
The 2 out of 3 falls was...
I think that was Toronto, right?
That
Toronto?
was for SummerSlam, right?
Yeah, I think it was Toronto. I think
it might have been the Brooklyn one. It was one of those two because they fought. Because Authors of Pain fought at the.
It was before Authors of Pain came into the.
So it was one of those. Actually, I think they fought by both of them. I think DIY and.
Yeah, there was 2.
One was the 2 out of 3 falls though, but yeah,
the 2 out of 3 falls one I think is the one I'm thinking of. That's the best tag match I've ever seen. That was. Because I remember I didn't see it live.
That could be debated now.
Yeah.
Personally, I think.
I didn't see it live, and he told me about it, and I went and watched it, and I was like, "Wow, this is incredible." But for me, for like standard wrestling, no gimmick match, anything like that.
Did you see this NXT's tag team match?
I honestly have not yet. No, I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Might change your opinion.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the Revival is going to be we might not see it right away, but I think they'll be the biggest call up for this newest round. I mean, Nakamura is going to be huge and all these other guys, but the ability that they have to really just flip a tag division on its head with the way they put together matches. And I'm glad that they came in as the heels that they were. They come in, they kick over the ice cream truck.
Top guys. Oh, that was great.
Top guys. Then they take out Kofi after the match. Yep. Like, that's who they are. I'm glad they didn't come in and, you never know how they're going to introduce them. The crowd's cheering for them, obviously, but the crowd was booing them after they took out Kofi. So I'm glad that they stuck with that because that's what makes them so good.
I truly believe that chemistry-wise and how they work together, they might be the best tag team in the world right now. Like, I can't think of off the top of my head. Young Bucks are a little flashier, but Revival has...
Alpha's good.
They have a chemistry, but Revival has something where they're constantly... They have that Shield element, how Shield was always... When one would leave, the other one would come in, or have each other's backs quick with the breakups.
That timing is unbelievable.
I think that they just have that. In ring, I would say Alpha's a little better, but as a tag team, I would say Revival is the special.
Yeah, well, I do like how they cut off the ring. I think that's awesome. It's a really throwback style. I love that team, and I think. Right now, if they can keep Cesaro and Sheamus together, I think that's a match made in heaven. I really do because
this is the club too.
Yeah, I've loved the work that Cesaro and Sheamus have really, especially in a short period of time that they've been able to put together. I love it. So
it did seem like just a terrible thrown together thing, and Cesaro's one of those guys I was talking to my friend about. You want him to be a top single competitor, but he just strives in the tag team division. He was really good in Ring of Honor, but then they put him with Chris Hero as the Kings of Wrestling. He strived. He was good and starting to get over a little bit. And here, in WWE, they put him with Tyson Kidd. He went to the next level.
Even he and Swagger, the Real Americans. That was a cool team.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I agree.
I need a longer wrestling memory.
He just has, for some reason, he needs a partner to bring him out a little bit, and it really works.
Yeah, I'm really excited. The Raw Tag Team division is blossoming right now. I did want to touch upon. We had the pre-show. We had the Battle Royal. I was a little disappointed this year. I've said it on previous shows. I like the Battle Royal because what they've done is they shifted all the gimmick entrants to the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And I always like that because it's a nice bit of fan service and it's fun. And then this year it was just like, we're going to put everybody who doesn't have a place on the Mania card. They did have the guy from Sanity in there, which was cool. Yeah. I don't know. Nothing. Gronk was in there. Apparently they didn't tell security he was supposed to be in the match.
Dude, that 5'6" lady stopped Gronk.
He was in there quick.
Yeah,
I was like, oh boy, somebody get the memo. But hey, good for her.
When they cut, I was like, oh yeah, she wasn't told, or she doesn't know who he is.
It was funny because you could see when Gronk was when he tackled Jinder Mahal, you could see Charles Robinson and her laughing in the corner like she clearly didn't know.
No, but it kind of made it like a cool, more real or more.
Yeah, because it always seems weird when they just let celebrities you just jump the railing and stuff. But I mean, it was fun for what it was. I was excited for Mania, so just to see a match like that early was kind of cool.
Wow, what did you think of Mojo Rawley winning?
You hate him.
I hate him.
You hate him.
I will say this: he got me points on the scorecard though, because I knew he was going to win.
He was
the only one that had. Braun Strowman was probably the more obvious choice, but on SmackDown they were building him as like that was what he was doing.
Speaking of which, actually,
Strowman got added last minute.
Before we even get into Mojo Rawley, because obviously that's the conclusion to the match.
Yeah.
Strowman and Big Show, they hype it up like this match within a match, and then they're like the first two shortly after the first two. Like I was like, well, why are you doing that? Are they building up to something else? Especially since Big Show has said in interviews this was his last hurrah with Mania.
That makes me really sad for him because he's been known to not have great WrestleMania moments, and for this, he was supposed to finally get his match with Shaq, and then that kind of got tossed under the rug, and I feel so bad for him. He is one of the most underrated wrestlers. He works real hard for his size and age. He's in the best shape he's ever been. For his size, people just think, he's just a big man, but he's continually trying really hard, and people just like kind of just shit on him, and it makes me sad. And then this being his last match, and it was like no moment. He just got tossed out.
Yeah, and even up until it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, that main event match he had with Strowman on Raw was, for someone doing it as long as he had, I mean, he's busting his ass to get into shape and to to really put Strowman over. I mean, that was huge. In the main event, he can still get it done.
That was a phenomenal match.
It was great,
Yeah,
and it does. I agree. It stinks that he just kind of got tossed aside in this match. I mean, I thought he could have lasted a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. I think it would have made it more impressive for Mojo to win by eliminating him or Strowman.
Not Jinder Mahal.
With
the help of Gronk.
With the help of Gronk.
That's yeah. I would have
rather
rather seen a rematch, a Strowman Big Show rematch, because I love that main event.
I think give the win to Show at Mania over Strowman. It wouldn't hurt Strowman because he's going to come back. He has a long career ahead of him.
Yeah.
And for men, he's another guy who's just really young and he's getting onto it quick.
And I mean, they're doing everything to build him. They got him suplexing Christmas trees. And
I feel like you do your best to bring that up every time.
It's my favorite Strowman moment. Yeah. It's my favorite Strowman moment. But I don't have an issue with Mojo winning. I'm glad he's a guy that I wouldn't have expected them to do anything like that with. So from that perspective, I think it's cool that he did win. The problem is, and it's been for a few years, we don't know. There's no implications to winning this. Like you win it, they cart the trophy out there a few times when you have matches for like a month and a half, and then it's just something that gets mentioned as a past accolade. And there needs to be more gravitas to that win. What's your take on it?
I agree. I think they should make it maybe not something as major as getting to you win the Royal Rumble, you main event Mania, but. I mean, why not make, you get a title shot of your choosing or something like that. Or you get entered into some, I don't know, I just, for what they have it as, which is really nothing besides a nameplate and standing there with your arms crossed to look like Andre the Giant. I mean, that's really all it is.
They all do that, yeah.
But, so if you're going to have it on Mania every year, and if you're going to be giving it to these different kinds of guys, Cesaro's won it, Corbin won it last year.
Cesaro really didn't benefit from it at all.
No.
With the exception of he had the memory of Body Slamming the Big Show, which he did really well.
Didn't they break the trophy that year?
I don't.
They broke the original trophy, didn't they?
I think so.
Didn't he smash it on somebody, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, I think it did break. But I mean, imagine Cesaro getting that moment, or Corbin last year, or Raleigh this year, with the added stipulation
Give him like an IC or US belt match.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. I don't know. I just think it'd be beneficial to them and it would make the trophy and the match seem more important. Mm-hmm. Now, instead of just, you don't have a spot in Mania, we're going to throw you in the Battle Royal. Now it's guys that are really going to want to be in it because it's a legitimate shot at something.
Yeah.
So with the build up to Mania, all these mid-card storylines, you could put those together and they could mean something because if you win this qualifying match for the Battle Royal, you're one of 25 or 30 guys now that could get an IC title shot. I just think for the build-up, for the eventual winner, I think it'd be beneficial for them to add some type of stipulation where you win something with it.
Just an idea. I was just thinking as you were saying that. What if they did something where, because they have the Elimination Chamber and they have the Money in the Bank pay-per-views, which are like their respective, they're kind of the interchangeable pay-per-views for each brand. What if you earned a slot in one of those matches on your respective show, because then you're almost getting number one contendership at the because these are guys that aren't going to be in that match typically anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe it depends on who they have win the Battle Royal, because then it just doesn't really give any. I don't know how to word this. Whoever wins that will get entered into the match, but then 5 other people don't have to win that and just get into the match. So it's still not really a benefit.
So make it more like a singular thing where you're the only guy who's the number one contender now, something like that, rather than add it into a group of people.
Or I like what you said, maybe go for a title of your choosing. That way, if a tag team guy wins it, they can go for the tag belts. Or if you get a good mid card who's he doesn't want to fight with if the champ's a face and the face wins and he doesn't want to go against the world champ, have him go against the mid-card champ. It'll give him a reason to go for a lesser title or something.
Yeah, well, there needs to be something that's done with it, though. And like you said, they could almost use it like a mid-year Rumble. Yeah. Because really we don't have anything until SummerSlam comes around again, because there's always that big gap that you have without a Big Four pay-per-view and where they kind of tread water after Mania. So I don't know. They need to do something with it, though, so it feels, because I don't know what's next for Mojo. It doesn't, we also had on the pre-show, we had the IC belt match, which, as we just got done with the Dean Ambrose match, actually. Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin.
I was actually trying to catch it. I don't know who won. I think Baron Corbin might have won, because I saw him smiling at the end of the match, but I don't know if he just won the belt or not.
Not sure.
Yeah.
But in any case, we had the IC belt match. What did you guys think?
At Mania?
Yeah, the IC belt match at Mania.
Thoroughly disappointed. Personally.
Yeah.
I was upset that Baron Corbin didn't win. I didn't think the match itself was anything worth note. Normally I would argue that the IC belt needs to be on the main card, but for what the match was, I think it was a pre-show match. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but that's my feelings on it.
I agree 100%. I was really expecting more because Ambrose Lesnar last year at WrestleMania was not good.
No.
And listening to him on the Stone Cold podcast made it seem like Lesnar just didn't want to do anything. Ambrose had all these grand ideas and he wanted to have this great match. And I know this was a regular rules match, it wasn't a street fight or anything, which I thought they maybe could have done. But then maybe you didn't want to make too many like that because you had the ladder match and then you had the whole timeless match, so maybe they didn't want to do too many.
Speaking of which, I don't want to get off topic. When did the Undertaker match become a street fight?
When it started, when they were coming out and they said it's now a no DQ.
I meant to bring that up earlier, and all of a sudden I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But in any case, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I thought the Ambrose Corbin match would have benefited from. Actually, they just had the street fight.
Yep, they
on
just
SmackDown,
had,
but I don't know. I was very disappointed. I was expecting more out of Ambrose. And I really thought Corbin would have benefited more, even on the pre-show, from winning, getting a WrestleMania moment, whatever that means. But I don't know, winning the title and honestly doing more than what Ambrose is doing with it. I can't even remember the last guy he defended against.
They love dumping titles on him and having him do nothing with him.
When he held the U.S. title from
forever.
October till March, and his first defense was in February, I was amazed with that.
Yeah, I was just, I don't know. I almost wonder, though, he's on the Stone Cold podcast, he's going on about how he had all these ideas, and Brock didn't want to do any of them. I can't think of a match that Brock's really had since beating The Undertaker that I haven't liked, except for that one. Except for that one. Even the Orton SummerSlam thing, which I think it was just because the end was odd.
Yeah, people didn't like that.
I didn't dislike the match, I just thought, the ending was just kind of odd. That's what it was. But... So I almost wonder if Ambrose is the one that might be a little difficult to work with.
Because I can't imagine Baron Corbin as a younger star who just wants to get known would not want to do anything.
Yeah.
I can't see him saying no. That's not a good idea.
And he has a complimentary moveset to Ambrose's, so...
That's what I headed into the match. I'm like, this is going to be perfect. Ambrose should be hungry to prove himself from last year. Corbin, obviously, is going to be ready to go. And then it just was... flat.
Especially on the pre-show. Because I'd imagine if you're on the pre-show, it would piss you off enough to be on the pre-show that you're like, I'm going to blow the main card out of the water. And at least, I watch a lot of UFC, and I know the mentality there, and I know it's a different thing, but every guy there wants to be on the main card because they get bigger payouts. So when they're on the prelims, they'll beat the living shit out of each other so the next time that they get scheduled, they're on that main card. And I mean, with this, I'd imagine the same thing. Why wouldn't you want to go and put on the best match you can so people are like, wow, did you see that pre-show match? I thought it was weird, but on the flip side of that, we had the Cruiserweight match, which I thought was everything that, that the IC match should have been. Yeah. Personally, I thought they delivered.
I think even the build-up to that match, they did what you said. They said, hey, we're on the pre-show. It's not our ideal spot, but let's make it. Let's make it. Let's give these guys on the main card something to work towards. And they did good. A lot of people were complaining that they didn't like the Cruiserweight belt on the pre-show, but I will say this, a couple points. The pre-show was also on the USA Network. It was also on Facebook Live, so people that aren't watching WrestleMania still get a chance to see that.
A lot of eyes, yeah.
A lot of eyes on the product. They got more time because on the main card you had 11 matches, and they had to kind of constrain for time. So you got a little bit more time and a little bit of flexibility, and they got to go out there and show what they can do. And I really liked that match. I kind of expected Neville to win because I expect them to maybe do a title switch on a main card maybe the next time. But Austin Aries definitely deserves it eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought the storytelling in the match was great. I love that. It's kind of similar to when I talked about Asuka and Ember Moon. Neville is coming in as this king of the cruiserweights. He's this really overconfident, cocky guy, but he can back it up. And all of a sudden, Aries is kind of kicking his ass in the match. He's got to go for the injured eye.
Yep.
And that was the turning point, and that's why he won. And I just love when they add those little subtle heel things into matches where, yeah, cheating maybe, but not really. I mean, you're taking advantage of a situation. So I love when they do that, and I thought that was a perfect ending to it.
On a very similar note, I didn't understand all the heat Bobby Roode got on the last takeover from the commentators for doing a heel move when he didn't do nothing wrong. He waited until Nakamura said, "I'm good to go," and then Nakamura stood up, and as soon as he went after the injury, but yes, like, he didn't do anything wrong.
No.
He just was a good wrestler, like a good technician. Like, that's what anybody would do in that situation.
You see, your opponent's hurt and want that part of the body. I mean, what are you going to do? You're taking advantage of it. Especially in that case, Nakamura hurt himself on offense. I mean, he hurt himself doing the Kinshasa, so...
Absolutely. So, but I do agree. So, Neville took advantage of doing the eye, but he didn't do anything wrong. He went for the weakness.
It was a great match. I enjoyed it the most out of all the pre-show matches. So, and it was worthy of being on the main card. So hopefully the Cruiserweight belt is next year. And they're doing... It was a slow start, but I feel like the Cruiserweight division's really starting to get some wheels in motion. My brother did go to SmackDown 2 weeks back. It was the week that Shane hit AJ through the table. About 2 weeks back now.
Yep.
And he wasn't a huge fan. He said the pacing for the 205 live taping was weird. He ended up leaving midway through.
Really?
He said there was a lot of video packages and stuff. So I know TV's the end goal with all that. But he said a lot of people were kind of calling it, throwing the towel in on it because it was just, there wasn't a lot of actual in-arena substance to that. So, just what he said. But yeah. So the other thing we had the two women's matches on Mania. First one was decent. The SmackDown one, it felt like they were pressed for time at that point. Its placement on the card was odd. It sat.
Not to me. You needed a breather match after the Lesnar Goldberg match. Yeah. And before the Roman Taker match. They've made that mistake a couple times with putting two big matches back to back, and the fans are just not into the next match because they're so tired from the first one. To give them a breather, bathroom break, something to. And it sucks that it's the women's title match, but all these matches at Mania were pretty top notch. I mean, not necessarily the quality of the match because some were here and there, but all of them have good stories that people wanted to see. So you have to take a hit somewhere, and
because they did that at the first Shawn Michaels Undertaker match, right?
Yeah,
and then the main event was right after it.
Yeah, it was Triple H, Randy Orton,
and the crowd just had nothing left. They had nothing left, and Triple H must have been not happy with that. But it's like you can't really have that type of heavyweight fight and then go into pretty much the same kind of match, drop down, drag out fight. It was tough placement for them, but
it's not something that we're planning on talking about. But the Lesnar Goldberg match itself, I just want to know your guys' thoughts on it. I personally thought, I was with some people and they weren't impressed by it, and I didn't understand why, because I didn't know what you could expect from those dudes. I was happy that they did anything more than a 30-second squash. Mm-hmm. Those two guys just went as hard as they could, as fast as they could for 4.5 minutes. Just beat the shit out of each other, and
I was really happy with it. Yeah, I thought it was the best Goldberg's look since coming back. He had a couple of spears in there that were like reminiscent of the old school spear, which was awesome.
Yeah,
because that's been my gripe since he came. Because he's been hitting that spear at the chest level, and I mean,
it's like a hug.
Yeah, it's so and like he hits it at this angle where he's like coming
like a perfect.
Yeah, it's almost like this like acute angle thing. It's weird, but. The thing with Goldberg is everybody rags on him because he has a limited moveset. Mm-hmm. Those moves back in his prime, he had mastered. He did them better than anybody else that would even attempt to do them. Mm. So I don't have a huge... Because, I mean, Hulk Hogan had a limited moveset. Everybody likes to forget that, but it's true. Yeah. So to see him actually hitting like old school spears and hitting the jackhammers, I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was great. It was a decent heavyweight brawl.
They had like 3 or 4 big spots, like breaking through the barricade, Lesnar leaping over the spear, and Goldberg
so cool.
just eating that turnbuckle.
Yeah.
It was rough, but yeah.
Well, you forget sometimes how athletic Brock Lesnar is, how quick he is, and then he pulls something like that.
And you couldn't tell by looking at his legs that he could jump that high.
No.
He's got some scrawny legs.
Yeah, he does.
But yeah.
For someone that big, he does not have...
The last time I got that moment was when he had... It was the build-up to one of the Taker matches, but I think it was after the loss at WrestleMania. They had that program where
they had 3 matches.
They did the one with the defiant gesture.
Yeah.
And then they had there was the Hell in a Cell, and there was SummerSlam and then the Hell in a Cell. That's what it was. And I can't remember what the build. It might have been to SummerSlam. And Lesnar, they did this segment where they were splitting them both up by security. And Lesnar came bounding down the ramp, and in like a single leap, just basically grabbed. You remember the exact moment? Grabbed the top rope and like launched himself in the ring from the arena floor. And I was like, "Holy shit! This guy is so scary quick. It's ridiculous." But yeah,
I'm looking forward to. I thought they played off the last match they had at Survivor Series too well, where Goldberg hits him quick again, but this time Lesnar was just, I don't know, mentally tougher, physically tougher, and was able to kick out.
Just prepared.
Just prepared. And I am looking forward to Brock. I've always loved Brock as champion because I think it legitimizes that belt.
Yeah, you don't need someone that's going to be there every week.
No.
And he's a dominant force that... Yeah, no, I agree.
So I'm looking forward to watching him fight guys for, 10 to 15 minutes again. Whether it be a Rollins, a Reigns, a Strowman.
I was going to say, I think that they first teased the Strowman thing last night, and I think that'll be very interesting first title defense for him.
I thought that was a great promo. That was awesome when he when he came out. He was like, "Yeah, you could have Roman Reigns when I'm finished with him and stuff." And I just the stuff they do with Strowman is great. Like it really is. He's had a solid build outside of that little like lull before Mania, but I mean I guess we can throw that aside because he's been strong otherwise. So
absolutely.
And like you said earlier, Strowman is early enough in his development where he can bounce back from things like that.
Yeah.
As, they're not pushing him down too far, and they had to get to the end game of Reigns and Taker at some point. So, but I'm glad to see Strowman's right back in there because I'm fine with him challenging. I mean, he's been doing some good stuff.
It's funny because I don't even think of him as a member of the Wyatt family anymore.
No.
I don't know, like, even, like, Harper, like, even if he went to Raw and he's away from Brett, like, I feel like I'd still look at him as a member of the Wyatt family. And for some reason, I don't know why, but, yeah, it's been great, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm curious to see how long Brock holds on to the title. I think you and I have discussed this, but I don't think Brock is getting pinned to lose this title. I think he's gonna lose it in a triple threat or something like that.
He hasn't been pinned
since Goldberg. Goldberg pinned him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's been a long
Yeah, because I was going to
time.
say, I think he hasn't been pinned since the Undertaker victory, with the exception of Goldberg, because when he had the title, he lost it in the triple threat match.
Yep.
I don't think he's lost
except
for Goldberg.
They don't give out many Lesnar pins, so which is fine. I mean, that's what you pay him a lot much money for. So one of the big things we had was and some people say it's too predictable, but we had the Hardys get added, and my brother reads all the dirt sheets.
What a scumbag!
And he said, the Hardys are doing this signing before Mania, like an unrelated thing. And he goes, and apparently there's like a WWE car outside the thing. And I was like, oh, please be true, please be true. And then the New Day came out, and they came running out.
They did a good job of teasing that.
They did. They were so good. Even the way they like sidestepped, like it was so perfect.
They thought that they were gonna, it looked like they were gonna walk down announcing themselves because they were in their ring gear. They had all their coats off and everything. I liked how they did that.
Perfectly played. As far as the broken characters go, we're getting teases with it. The first night seemed like we got more than we did on Raw, but I didn't actually get to see their match on Raw because I was on my commute home from work. But I watched the Raw Talk segment afterwards, And Matt keeps dropping lines. He keeps saying like he'll work the word deleted in. Last time Raw, he was talking in his regular voice, but they said, "Oh, how's it feel being back?" He goes, "It's absolutely intoxicating."
He said, "Wonderful, wonderful." He did his wonderful thing,
and he keeps doing so. What's the take on this? Are we going to get the broken characters?
I don't know if you guys follow much on social media, but he did put out a tweet about 3 or 4 hours ago, in regards to that, and he said it feels like coming home and getting all the attention that I got has cured my condition. He put in the word condition. And so he said, I think I'm cured for now. And then at the bottom he said, if it can even be cured. So he kind of teased it, but I think they're kind of just dropping it. WWE, I think, doesn't like it. I know this is an old school way of thinking, but I don't think WWE likes to push other people's, what other people made famous. And they didn't start the broken gimmick in WWE, so I think they're going to kind of drop it. And Hardy Boys are over enough in WWE where they don't need it, even though everybody wants it now.
But it might be smart to, from a creative standpoint, to, if the Hardys are working, then bring back the Hardys, and then you can always drop lines like Matt's been doing and tease it, and that's going to make the people want it even more.
Yeah, just pepper it in a little bit.
And maybe they never do it. Maybe they never pull the trigger. I know that I don't know too much about it, but wasn't TNA suing Matt Hardy?
Yeah,
too? Yeah. There's a lawsuit going on. I think now that the Hardys are in WWE, if they go after them, I think WWE will fight for the Hardys.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a fight I think TNA wants.
Right.
I don't think they have the money to even go into that. Right. But I don't necessarily know if WWE's pushing for them to have the gimmick. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't.
I think he has to. No, I shouldn't even say he. I think WWE has to acknowledge it in some form or another, even if it's just letting him do the chants every once in a while.
To be fair, he still has his hair dyed.
And he's still going out with a dry. He's not letting it down.
He still does his big smile every once in a while, and does his hands, and then he did the delete thing.
They cut it right after the.
It's a weird thing. I heard somebody talking about it on a YouTube video today. When he does it, it's straight across. When
everybody's doing this.
You have to go over someone's head, so it's very
bad,
very Nazi-esque. It's weird to see.
Yeah.
I was actually watching because I didn't watch too much TNA, but they did it in a ton of segments, and I'm like, what the hell is the crowd doing here? But then I looked it up to watch it, but I'm like, yeah, they were going kind of high with that. Like,
it was very.
I don't want to be doing that in unison.
It was a little odd, but I don't know. I think the teasing is going to pacify the crowd. If they don't acknowledge it at all, it's going to get ugly. But I think they're giving him the carte blanche to tease it a little bit. Yeah. And I think he's keeping the look of the character, which is cool too.
Talking about teasing things, New Day has continuously done a good job of peppering little things in to nullify the crowd about bringing up the Page DVD.
It's already on DVD?
No, I meant... You're right. I have it on DVD. But yeah, to nullify the crowd about the video... even with the segment that they did first, talking about pulling on their levers, and then Big E does the stupid look over to Xavier.
I didn't put that together.
It was really funny.
I always have to rewatch Mania because I watch it with everybody over, and then I try to rewatch it on my own so I can pick up on everything I missed. But I was trying to do it in time for this episode, and it's a 5-hour freaking show.
And they did it on Raw too when they were talking about how their blood was flowing all the way from their head down to there, and then they stopped them. But they're doing a good job without addressing it, but stopping the crowd from doing something dumb. Because you got to nuke
the crowd, or else, especially with stuff like that, I mean, they're just not going to stop.
Yeah.
Not that crowd.
Oh, no.
It's not the
Wrestlemania. And they didn't bring anything up after they said that. So it was good enough, and the people that don't know about it are like, this is just funny.
Yeah, exactly. So it can work both ways.
Yeah, it was, well, it's like earlier when I was saying, they're trying to get ahead of the crowd now and play into what they're going to naturally do. So, which is good because... I don't know. The crowd needs to be tamed a little bit. It's out of control, as we talked about last week. On the SmackDown side of things, if Brent were here, he'd be going on. I watched WrestleMania with Brent, and
how was he?
So he was good. He enjoyed it. I certainly don't want to give his take on things, But I know for a fact that the Cena Nikki thing, he watched the match. And he was like, oh, that was clearly, for the ladies. And I don't know. The match was nothing to write home about. It wasn't even long enough to write about, truthfully.
Very disappointing.
And
not disappointing, just not what I thought it could have been.
I was excited for it.
With the build-up going into it.
I was really excited. They put so much time into these promos and things. And, basically, the match wasn't the payoff. It was the post-match engagement that was.
Yeah, they really took me on a roller coaster ride of not wanting to see this match when I first heard about it. Being like, that's going to be a dumb match. And then the build-up was like, wow, this match is going to be intense. And then after Cena did the whole, last week he did this isn't a match, we're just going to demolish you. I was like, man, Miz and Maurice are going to win, it's going to be great. And then they didn't. And John Cena and Nikki Bella just kind of demolished them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what a stick in the spokes of Miz's bike. It was.
I feel so bad for Miz at some points because he does such great character work. I mean,
he does.
He was the main reason why that I thought the build to the match was so good. I mean, Cena's good on the mic too, but Cena has this aura about him sometimes where he has to have the last word in, and I don't know if it's built specifically for that or if it just happens like that, but when he's saying something like that, like, we're going to demolish you, that's the last word on Talking Smack. SmackDown's over. And then the next thing you see is them demolishing him. It's like, so Miz did all this.
It gives no credibility to Miz.
No, and those total Bella's lost film things. I thought those were amazing. That Miz and Maurice did. It was just so funny, and I just loved it. And then
look how much time they invested in those segments. Yeah. That was like a quarter of the show almost last week. Yeah, that was a long segment. And it was entertaining. It never felt like it was too long or anything. And then to come out of that and do that, it wasn't, the payoff wasn't there on any front. But
my biggest thing is, I think that, now there's a couple things here. I think that Miz and Maurice absolutely should have won that match. You still could have done the proposal afterwards. Just like how when Randy Macho Man Savage lost his retirement match against Ultimate Warrior and then proposed to Miss Elizabeth right after the match. Not a problem. People don't remember Macho Man losing that much. They remember the proposal.
Yeah.
John Cena and Nikki Bella are going to be gone for a while. They're, it's known. Nikki Bella said that might have been her last match. Most people, when they go out in their last match, they lose. Right. Just like Undertaker. I don't think there were so many reasons why Miz and Maurice losing negatively hurt them, and there was not much to benefit Cena and Bella winning.
I think if you have Miz and Maurice win, now when Cena's cutting that post-match promo, which it was a promo.
Yeah,
I know he's proposing, but it's a promo.
Oh, yeah, no. You're right.
Now, you can phrase it as, you know what? There's things in life that are bigger than wins and losses, bigger than professional wrestling. Propose. Now you kind of like, you know what? Now I'm like, you know what? That's a cool thing that Cena did.
Because the moment was.
And now it's like, not only did I win, but now I also really need to marry this really hot girl.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
It didn't. It totally came off like action movie hero
everything.
bullshit. Yeah.
Like I need to win and get the girl. It's like, what
he
the hell?
didn't need to, and that's upsetting because Miz is going to be around, and now he has to work off of that. Granted, now he's going to be in a promo. Drawing a blanks, but he's going to be in a match with Nakamura. It looks like after that promo, and probably not going to do so great in that.
Can't imagine they're going to have him go over Nakamura.
Yeah, so it's just they did such a good job building the Miz character. Miz did a good job of building the Miz character this past year, and it didn't lead up to anything.
I didn't even think the promos you put in. I didn't even think it came off genuine. Because number one, it leaked out. Everybody kind of knew it was happening. But, I watched the next day on the Today Show, because I go in later on in my day. And he was on with Nikki, and he was going on about, they were like, did anybody else know? And he goes, well, it's a big production, so one other person had to know about it. I'm like, bullshit. Bullshit, Cena.
If us fans knew about it, then... How demoralizing must have that been for Nikki Bella?
I know.
The one thing I wanted for so long is going to happen. I mean, it's so predictable.
But it really felt like almost like a total Bellas/Divas teaser.
I wonder if he already proposed.
That's what I think.
That's
for her sake, you know what I mean? Like
that's what I
for her
think.
sake, I hope Connor's because She's for all intents, although they could all be both ways.
As cheesy as it is, when he was talking about that story about actually first when he was telling us
that story was so weird.
I was really waiting for him to say, first thing I asked you was, "Can you hear me?" And you said yes, and I wanted him to go, "Can you see me?" And then just leave the ring after that. I would have been so happy.
That's it.
That whole thing came off very Bill Cosby-ish initially. It was very weird.
Yeah, they did that, and I hope...
Oh, and you were aware!
But I hope that, as cheesy as it was, that maybe when he proposed to her or something, in real life, like, this is not great.
No. No. I wasn't a big fan of the whole match, post-match stuff.
Yeah, but SmackDown 2, we had Orton, Wyatt.
Continuing with the disappointment.
Well, I tried to structure it so it was like a sandwich with a disappointment in the middle. But I don't know where to begin with this, because I remember sitting here last week and saying, I have a bad feeling they're going to take the belt off of Wyatt. I remember saying it. And
I believe I also said, that's dumb. They shouldn't do that.
Yeah. And not only did they take him off of him, they introduced some weird, like, Resident Evil camera angle, supernatural. I don't know what. They were projecting maggots into the thing. I don't know who bought this projector at WWE, but they loved using it. Because they used it for the Seth Rollins entrance. They used it for
Seth Rollins entrance was cool.
They used it for the Naomi entrance. They loved this freaking projector. So, I don't know. Did anybody figure out the plot line of this match? Because it didn't make sense to me. Like, I didn't get what was going on. The action didn't make sense.
So, I don't like using this word. Brent throws it around very willy-nilly. I would say, kayfabe-wise, he was probably summoning Sister Abigail's power. That might have been what was going on. My friend said that was dumb. I like to believe, because my friend was like, oh, he's a cult leader. I was like, the projection guy's in his cult. That's all I can think of. Like, he just wanted Randy Orton to lose. I don't know what it was. It was a weird, cheesy gimmick, and the images they had were so dumb. And the fact that Randy Orton left the ring after the first one with maggots, and I was like, oh, this is dumb. And then the second one, the ref jumped out of the ring, but Randy Orton stood there. And then they did a third one with no reaction, and I was like, that's weird. I didn't care for it. It was interesting and unique.
It was unique, yeah.
Wasn't a fan, really.
No, this was easily the most frustrating match of the night for me, because I'm a huge Wyatt fan, and it's constantly one step forward, two steps back with him. And it's just, to have him lose made no sense, I don't think. I don't understand what Orton gains from it, while Wyatt loses a lot. He loses another Mania match, which I don't think he's ever won on Mania, right?
No.
He lost to Undertaker, he lost to Cena, he lost to Orton, he got rock bottom by The Rock last year.
Yeah, those were his four.
I mean, and it just, I don't get it.
Is he the anti-Undertaker? Is he
just
going to go on the losing streak?
He's going to be 0-24.
Oh, yeah.
But, and now Rowan's back tonight on SmackDown. Why don't you bring Rowan back to help him win?
Mm-hmm.
Or some, I just thought there was a lot more that they could have done with it. And for me, they just seem confused as to what to do with his character.
He doesn't.
He
knows. Yeah.
But to treat him just like, say, someone named John Cena or someone named Randy Orton, who's just kind of more of a straightforward character, that's not him. So you can't keep pulling and pushing someone like that, because now when he has these long promos, they're not effective, because there's not one thing he's said in a promo or one threat he's made that he's ever been able to cash in on.
Absolutely. I think my biggest downside to Bray Wyatt is, for a long time, and still to this point, I don't think Bray Wyatt is a character that ever needs a belt. I think his character is bigger than a belt. By giving him the belt, you kind of legitimize him as a real threat, and you give him something, and then immediately take it away. And that's just another reason, like, if they never gave him a belt, but had him beat prominent people in interesting storylines, then he's Jake the Snake, and people will always remember Jake the Snake, and Jake the Snake never won a belt. And
he had the IC belt, I thought, at one point. No?
I'm not sure. I didn't think he did. I know he had a feud with Rick Rude shortly after Rick Rude lost the belt.
Yeah.
I don't believe he ever held a belt.
The only one, his whole persona was never built around challenging for titles.
Yeah, like, it's not something, and Bray Wyatt's character doesn't, he's the eater of worlds, he's a god, he's a cult leader, he doesn't need a title, a physical object.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The most compelling storyline that he had, and of course they dropped the ball on it, was when he had the Cena thing, and he was like, I'm going to show you how none of these people actually care about you when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was awesome. And they were doing a thing where they were starting to show like a new side of Cena. Remember when he had the chair?
Yeah.
And he's like, hit me, John, hit me.
Yeah.
And I thought this is great. Like, this is like almost like in 7 when at the end he becomes Wrath and he ends up shooting him. Like, it was something. It wasn't that, but it was something. And they've never done anything similar. And they get caught up with these weird effects. These weird, like, Papa Shango cheese ball effects. Like, remember the one where they had the Hell in a Cell and he randomly appeared for no apparent reason?
Like a smoke light.
And they had the Sister Abigail projection and stuff, and then somebody got hit with a TV, if I remember correctly.
Those are two different matches.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm getting everything mixed up here.
I think WWE has a hard time. I think Bray Wyatt is connecting with the fans, and I don't think WWE knows what is connecting with the fans. I think they might think it's one thing, but it's not. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to go for what they think is connecting, and it's not. And it's just, and they're missing the mark on it. And I think it's a tragedy for Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
I just don't know where he goes. Like, now what does he do? Where does he go from here? Is he going to try and challenge Orton again to get the title back? But I don't know, that's...
He is good. He did offer a challenge at the beginning of SmackDown in a House of Horrors match, he even said he's like, nobody knows what this is yet.
Oh, it's gonna be the new Punjabi prison. Oh my god, the most punishing structure in WWE history.
Absolutely,
they need to bring that back. That's
have Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton fight in a Punjabi prison match.
Prison match
makes sense. Yeah, there you go.
But by the way, so the I brought up the Resident Evil correlation. Because something about that whole thing seemed, number one, the camera angle seemed very Resident Evil, but something about it seemed very video game boss fight because it always appeared when he went to a different corner. Yeah. And I was like, oh, he's going to complete the sequence and like I don't know, it was just weird. So coming out of that, something that I think delivered, I think everybody in this room agreed, that Triple H Rollins, but before we get to the match, how about that entrance on the trike?
With the police squadron. He had a police squadron in an unsanctioned match. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love how whatever the budget is on entrances for WrestleMania, he makes sure they blow the majority of it on his entrance every year.
Oh, man.
Every year.
Triple H is... people can argue Undertaker and Shawn Michaels are Mr. WrestleMania and like what it's, but Triple H, man, he is the entertainment of WrestleMania. He has the most grand entrance every year. Triple H is one of my favorites of all time. He's great, and I think he really delivers on the pageantry of Mania.
Oh, he definitely does. Oh, here's your budget. I'll take 75% of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed the match with Rollins.
We'll give Bailey some heart fireworks and stuff.
Yeah.
But in any case, so the match, completely unsanctioned match, supposedly, even though they provide a ref for it, and it was more physical than I expected it to be, really, because I was really thinking that they were going to be relying on outside participants coming in. Namely Samoa Joe,
who was not on the card at all.
Yeah, we could talk about that in a few minutes. I didn't want to talk about the match before we get into that, but I figured they were going to be relying on a lot of different things, and Rollins was basically it was a street fight match, and pretty good one at that.
Yeah. This is the second year in a row that Triple H has put over a younger talent. I think a lot of people always say that Triple H is burying talent. I don't think that argument can be had in the last 5 years. I think he's, with the exception of Sting, but that was a weird.
Yeah, but I mean, did Sting really need to be put over? I mean, it would have been cool, I guess, but very few, if any, WCW guys ever just came in and. I'm sorry, Sting's not going to be Triple H.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now Triple H has, I
agree.
Yeah.
Another match that just became a street fight.
I thought that's how him and Rollins was going to be, because similar to you, how healthy Rollins. But to your point, I mean, Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, Roman Reigns at 32, Rollins at 33. So
next year is it Ambrose? He's going to just put over the Shield 3 years in a row?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't. That's a really decent rub to get, is having Triple H put you over in those type of situations.
Absolutely.
I thought Rollins looked great. I mean, the entrance that you mentioned earlier was so cool.
It was really cool.
That was so cool. With the
At first, I didn't know. At first, I didn't know what it was. I was like, "Is he like an Olympic torch runner?" But then he like put it down and it lit up the whole rampway into the ring. And I thought it tied really nicely into the Kingslayer gimmick that he's had. And
it would have been cool if they had actual flames come down. But...
just set Triple H right on fire in the middle.
No, like down the ramp, like if they had it rigged on the sides.
Oh, kind of like Roman Reigns' entrance.
But the problem with that is I mean, they already had a piece of the set catch on fire that night anyway, as it was. So, and the ramp usually comes in close proximity to fans. But anyway, I really liked the match, and it was not what I was expecting. I really thought, like you said, it was going to be like the Sting match, where you're going to have all these different parties rushing in and out to kind of cut Rollins a break. I almost wonder, because what was coming out was that he wasn't healthy enough for them to do a regular match. But given what they did, I think he was fine, and they just added the stipulation to increase the storytelling aspect of it. But I was definitely a little disappointed, though, that Joe didn't get involved in some shape or form. So
absolutely. No, I agree 100%. I'm happy that Rollins went over, but I was surprised to not see Joe on the card at all.
It's just odd to debut him before Mania, very close to it, and then just not have him be involved.
Did he debut after Survivor Series? Was that when it was? Or was it after Rumble?
After
Rumble.
It was after Rumble.
Yeah, it is weird.
It was like close. Yeah, it was after the. Yeah, so I mean, which I'm fine with, because I think his role on Raw so far has been excellent.
Yeah.
As this destroyer. But then to leave him off the biggest show,
especially because it fit into the storyline of the match. It's not like it would have been odd for him to be there in a match where that's I don't know.
The only real counterpoint that I have to that is it really gave Seth Rollins his moment, as opposed to just either making it cheesy and then maybe have someone else come out and help him or something. It really just was the one-on-one match, and it gave Seth Rollins his. Not that he needed a moment after WrestleMania 32 or 31 when he beat Lesnar and Reigns in that quick triple threat that he made. But I think it really solidified him as a top guy in the company, letting him go one-on-one with Triple H, and really no shenanigans with the exception of bumping Steph through the table.
But I don't think that'll take away from
No. And I think it was. I mean, I don't know if you guys thought this was cheesy or not, but I was a huge fan of the 9 or 10 times they reversed the pedigree. I don't know if you guys were a fan of that, but I liked that when they just kept going for the pedigree over and over and over. And
it was kind of cool to show like they both had their kill shot.
Yeah.
And it was whoever was going to get it first or best.
Yeah.
It was going to win it. But back to your point on the, he getting his moment really, and I think that fit into the story they wanted to tell, especially with his promo. Was it the Raw before where he's just saying like, I want to be who I was before I met you?
Yes, that was
that type of
the
person.
Raw
So for him to win with like the help of someone wouldn't have been as cool a moment for that story instead of him winning how he did win.
The only weird thing I can say about that is I think he should have done a different finisher. No, I have no problem with him doing the pedigree. I think that's a fine finisher, and I like the fact that he kind of has that. I don't think for this match, him saying that he wanted to be the guy he was before he met Triple H, using the pedigree, who he got from Triple H as the finish in that match.
That's a good point.
I didn't even think of that until you said that thing. And
I'm surprised they haven't changed his finishing move yet.
I think he's going to keep the pedigree. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
He's said in interviews that he likes the fact that the only two people that ever use it are him and Triple H, and it's an honor to be able to do the same finisher as someone like Triple H.
Yeah, it's a shame they can't do the curb stopper because that was awesome. That spot he did with Orton 31 was great. So I was always kind of surprised they did that move though, given like American History X and everything.
Just stepping on someone's head and smashing. Yeah,
more so calling it the curb stop.
Yeah.
I feel like you could phrase it a little differently, but make it sound severe.
Like the head basher or something. Yeah, it was just weird. Then the match that blew away all my expectations went on first. AJ Shane. I did not expect that to be as good as it was. It really, I didn't expect Shane to even have any sequencing or anything like that. So that caught me completely off guard. I don't know about you guys, but
no, I liked it. I didn't. I liked the fact that they didn't have to resort to too much insanity. Shane McMahon to my knowledge, doesn't often have regular matches.
Mm-mm.
He always has a gimmick as a crutch, normally. And I mean, he still got in some spots, but he didn't do anything overly insane. And I think he really hung with AJ Styles. Getting ahead of myself a little bit, I don't know if I was kind of surprised that AJ Styles didn't turn face at the end of that match. I thought that was going to be his time to, like, shake Shane's hand and be like, listen, you put up a hell of a fight, I respect you, and then kind of go face from there. But the match itself was far better than I thought it was going to be. I was not disappointed at all.
No, it reminded me on a lesser scale of like the Shane Kurt Angle matches that they used to have, but those heavily relied on big spots and props and weapons.
Going to the entrance.
So, but I think, I mean, AJ is just so talented that you can really put him in the ring. I can't really think of a bad match he's had at least since going to SmackDown. Even before the roster split, he was doing some great stuff. So to put him in there with Shane to open, the main card, that's a big spot. Mm-hmm. And I thought Shane kept up well, but I think a lot of it had to do with Styles too, and he's just the best.
Absolutely. One of my friends was saying that he was kind of disappointed that Shane in the storyline of the match could keep up with AJ, but I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it as AJ kind of pulling Shane through the match, not carrying him, because Shane definitely held him up, doing a goddamn shooting star press. He went to the top rope and hit the cross sign, and I was like, what is he? He's not even doing nothing. Yeah. And then he hit the shooting star press. Well, didn't hit it, but missed it. But, well, good for him.
Yeah. I mean, to be able to do that at 47, because that was a pretty shooting star press.
Yeah, it was nice.
AJ's there. He's landing. Perfect.
I would have screwed it up at 29.
I might not have made it to the top
I actually
rope.
tried to do a shooting star press into my pool when I was like, I don't know, like 13, 14. And because we had the thing, we had an above ground pool. It was like 4 feet, 4.5 feet. And then we had the
diving board?
No, there was like a thing, like not a diving board, but like a piece of the fence that like it was supposed to cover the gap between the pool and the deck. But anyway, I used to use it as my turnbuckle.
Okay.
On top of it. And I tried it, and when I was coming back down, I hit my head on the bottom. I'm lucky I didn't crack my neck.
Jesus.
I hit my head on the bottom of the deck. Yeah.
Little baby backyard wrestling key.
Yeah, straight to the pool. I was like, oh, the water's going to cushion me. Yeah, so anyway, I can't pull off a shooting star press. We also had, this is just a huge week, so we had Finn Balor returned. I don't think it was a surprise to anybody because he's been working the live events and everybody kind of figured it was going to happen sooner than later, but definitely a big moment when he came out last night. The crowd seemed pretty amped for it, and I know you're a Balor fan.
I am a Balor fan. I didn't like the spot he came back in. He seemed like, he was coming back to help Seth Rollins when Seth Rollins is the one who hurt him.
Yeah, it doesn't
put him out,
sense.
made him relinquish his title. So that didn't work for me. I do like Balor. I liked him a little bit better. When he first came into NXT. Once he got the title, a lot of his matches were kind of the same matches over and over again. I still gave him the benefit of the doubt because I liked his character. I liked the look. I liked the demon. I liked his entrance song, all that type of stuff. But he definitely fell into a little bit of a rut, and I think Samoa Joe helped him a little bit with that because you don't kind of fall into a rut with Samoa Joe. He'll knock you around a little bit, so I think that helped him. And then I thought he was going to get going on the main roster, and he really never got a shot. Yeah. So I'm hoping that him coming back, there was a weird spot to come back.
Him and Samoa Joe, that was your feud of the year on your column, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I remember I'd forgotten about it, and you had written it, and I was like, oh shit! I forgot that was this year. Yeah.
Yeah, because by that time, Joe had moved on to Nakamura. I mean, he could have had 2 feuds there. But.
Absolutely. I think the way I was looking at the main event, because my friends were like, "Oh, why would he team with Seth Rollins? Like, it kind of doesn't make sense. Seth Rollins was the guy that put him out of action." I think it was also he had feuds with both Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. So maybe it was kind of like, let's just put our ties aside. Because in that match. Yes, Finn Balor got put out of action, but he beat Seth Rollins in the match. So,
yeah,
he stopped Seth Rollins from getting the title. Like, there was no...
They played into the hesitation, though, a little bit at the end, because when he was going to, raise his hands, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor's kind of, just meandering around, and Seth Rollins grabbed his arm and raised it. But, there was almost, a little hesitation / suspicion there. So, there was definitely, I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they play it off. But it was an odd spot for him to come back in. But
sorry. I was going to say, I was hoping he was going to come back when Lesnar was given his...
That's what the fans wanted.
Yeah. I just thought it would have been cool because you can play it into... You might not necessarily have an issue with Lesnar, but that's his title.
Yeah.
I had to give it up due to injury. The only thing with that is Balor never really spent too much time on the main roster. So to build him up properly to go after this fully realized Brock Lesnar is probably going to take some time.
Yeah, especially since he's like 5'10" stuff. And
he could use the demon gimmick on his side, but
he could. But it was cool. I thought the visual of Strowman and Lesnar was cool because
it was awesome.
I think
I
said that. I was like, it's not often you see Lesnar the smaller guy in a feud.
Yeah, like looking up.
Yeah.
So that was a cool visual to see. It's like, oh.
Yeah, his arms are almost bigger than Lesnar. Yeah, it was cool. That I think is going to be when they finally pull the trigger on that.
I think something very subtle that they did was when Strowman kind of pushed Lesnar's shoulder and Lesnar took a step back, like kind of giving him like, all right, he's got some power to him.
Yeah.
I don't know how I felt about Strowman backing down. It's a weird spot because I don't know that either one of them, it looks good if either one of them backs down, but it felt weird to have Strowman come out, initiate it in the middle of Brock's promo, and then have him be the one to back down. It was not. I don't know how to play that one properly.
You said kind of, and I agree more so on this one than the other one. But you had a problem when he backed down on the Undertaker too, which that one I understood more. This one I agree with you on. I don't know why he backed down from Lesnar. Maybe this is a tease. It's just
because it just seems like he's like yeah, well I'm right here if you want to go, and then Lesnar puts the belt down and he's like, oh, well, you actually want to do it tonight? No.
Yeah,
maybe
it was a psych out thing. Maybe he was trying to get in his head. I don't know. And I agree with you. I don't think it was interesting that he backed down.
No, because then I think you don't...
Unless they're teasing Strowman as the heel in this.
It's possible, because he probably... Well, I don't know. I mean, he could, be
because they're both kind of they're both kind of tweeners, I guess, but they're both kind of the good guy going into this.
Because Strowman does some things like the kip ups and stuff and the drop kicks that it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to boo.
Yeah,
but you don't really necessarily want to boo Lesnar either because he's so awesome and he's so powerful. But so I don't know. I mean, that's gonna be a tough unless one of them does something, really nasty, or vice versa. Someone becomes this conquering hero. I don't know.
Well, the line's getting blurred.
I know this is a little off topic, but one of those things that I really liked that a heel does is Neville last night on Raw in his match with Mustafa Ali when he went to the top rope and the fans were losing their mind.
Oh, he wouldn't do the finishing
and
move.
then he just stepped down. I was like, man, what a subtle heel move. That was so good. Goddamn, Neville, you're great.
Back-to-back nights. He's so
well,
awesome.
I went to the live event. Kevin Owens actually ultimately worked this into a match he had with Roman Reigns on Raw like a couple of weeks later, or maybe it was pay-per-view. I can't remember, but I went to the live event in November. Did you go to that one in Providence?
Yes. Christmas tour?
The holiday tour, right?
Because was it Owens, Reigns, and Rusev, Rollins?
Remember the crowd at one point? They were cheering Owens, and he was like, screw this, I'm going to put him in a headlock for 10 minutes.
He is the headlock man.
He put Reigns in a headlock, and everybody turned on Owens right away, because they were like, what is this? This is horse shit.
Yeah.
And I thought that was awesome. It's just, kind of another moment like
Owens is so good at, when he wants people to like him, you get him to like him. And I compare him to the Dudley Boys. Those guys are, they can turn it on and off. They can be faces and heels whenever they want.
So, and then finally, I don't know, Mike, I think you saw it. I know I talked to you earlier.
I ended up watching it.
Oh, you did watch it. You did watch it.
Yep.
So Goldberg, after Raw went off the year, came out, and he did what I guess was some type of hiatus, retirement, finale type speech. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk because I thought it was really well done. And the key thing the key takeaway for me and that I wanted to address was the fans wanted to do their typical fan bullshit. And he said, look, I get it, but this isn't part of the show. I'm speaking to you from my heart, and I'd appreciate if you'd listen. And they shut up.
Yeah, very respectful.
Yeah. And so I just thought that was unique.
You don't
rare
see
that you see that.
I also, going into that speech, it seemed to like, because of when Lesnar came out, they were so hot for Lesnar. Goldberg went out knowing he was going to do this speech. I felt like he felt the crowd was against him. And they weren't. They weren't. Because even that whole promo, they were cheering for him. But I think he went out very defensive at first. And he said that. And then as the promo went on, he realized like they were kind of on his side. And he brought his son in. And
yeah, it was well done. His mic skills, I don't know, maybe it's from hosting all those shows and stuff.
Yeah, probably.
They've been significantly better than they ever were, and it was kind of a bummer. It's time for him to go, but it was definitely.
And he left the tease that he could come back. You never know when he'll come back.
If he wants to come back every once in a while and spear somebody on an old school Raw.
Yeah, don't give him another title run. I think don't blemish this. He had a good go.
Yeah.
My only complaint with it is his stupid son did a dab. Did the little I don't even know.
Brent was here going off.
I was like, that was so dumb. That was so dumb. Like
his son seems very disinterested in this entire.
Yeah.
Until he was crying, I thought that was interesting that he was crying.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just like last night was the only time where it looked like he kind of cared, and maybe it's just, hey, what is he, 10, 11 years old?
Yeah,
12 years old, and I'm on live TV in front of all these crazy fans. I'm sure that has something to do with it.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I really enjoyed Goldberg's last run. I'm glad they extended it past Survivor Series. Like you said, his promos have been much more direct. He's not a liability on the mic. You know what you're getting in the ring. It's going to be quick. And, I mean, he's cool. He got a
and the entrance is always... I never get sick of the entrance.
No,
yeah.
that is
I never
cool.
do.
Breathing the fire.
Yeah, it was
always cool.
The Mania one was awesome. It was great. And I completely, when I was typing this up, I don't know what happened, but apparently I forgot to give Angle his bullet point.
Oh.
I know we talked about it.
Before we go to Angle, though,
all right.
I do want to say, I think that one of the best things that happened was their match last night. I know we talked about the match a little bit. Completely took away from what happened at WrestleMania 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they did exactly what they needed to do in that match. Like I said before, they just went at it for 4.5 minutes as hard as they could.
Well, they didn't yell in each other's face for 10 minutes.
That was ridiculous.
That's a legit black eye on their records before before Sunday's match. Because that's just, I mean, they're way too talented, way too highly regarded to be dealing with that garbage that they did at WrestleMania 20. But there was two people who just had too big of egos, but I'm glad they made up for it, and they did. I think they did.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So now we can go into my favorite.
Your favorite topic. Your favorite topic. Kurt Angle is the Raw GM, and in one episode, he killed it. He did better. I love Mick Foley, but he did better than Foley did in the 4 months that he did it.
Yep.
No longer than that.
Yeah, no, it was from July.
Oh yeah.
So the draft.
7-8 months, whatever.
Yeah, I was at that.
Yeah, because I went to.
I was at that Raw. We were all at that Raw.
Yeah, we were all at that Raw.
We were all at that Raw. But yeah, I was just really like the comedy segments. Everything was great. Like
I think that he is exactly what a GM needs to be. He has his comedy moments like he did with Enzo and Cass. He has the respectability. I don't know if that's a word, but he has the what he says is definitive. He makes sense. Even with the Sami Zayn and Jinder Mahal thing, when he was just like, go in the ring, just go wrestle. Like, I like that he gave Sami the 3 eyes. He was kind of giving him a little push.
Oh, that's funny, yeah.
Kurt Angle is bar none my favorite of all time. I love him. I think he is comedically great. I think he can do amazing promo work. Second to none in the ring. Like, at his prime, he is better than pretty much anyone.
Yeah. I think this is going to be... Because the Foley thing, we've all talked about it. I've talked about it individually with you, but like it just became like an insane old man ranting. Yeah. And I love Foley, but I think he was just starting to lose his edge a little bit.
Was it you or BG that said he only has 2 speeds, like...
Oh, me.
Funny, yeah. It was like funny or passionate promo. Like.
No, I forgot what it was.
You said he only had 2 speeds.
Yeah, I know. I think I just said he has 2 speeds, but it's really what he has now. It's just, and the first couple times you see it works, but then It got to the point where that was it. Like, and he always seemed like, for instance, I was at one point, I was working at a high school, and I was in a position where I was an advisor, and I had a co-advisor. And I just used to, like, so the kids would come to me and be like, oh, like, can I buy a ticket to prom even though the deadline's passed? And I'd be like, why don't you go ask Chris about it? And just because I didn't feel like dealing with it right then and there, like oh, you're ruining my life, and I would pass off to him, and Foley came off like that to me. He came off like me in an advisorship role, where like he didn't seem like he could make tough decisions, and I mean this is obviously storyline, but the way they were writing him and the way that he portrays everything, it didn't come off like he was a definitive man. Like Stephanie was constantly telling him like, oh, this is what you should be doing, whereas like Angle, I feel like you can have him on camera more often without having the reliance on Stephanie. He makes for more interesting television at the end of the day. And it opens up the door for him to have a match down the road like Shane did with AJ.
I would not be disappointed if Steph comes back after a month. Give Angle some time by himself, and then Steph comes back and like, you're doing a fine job, and just leaves. Because they don't need Steph on the show. No. Especially with Triple H not as a regular character. She was necessary when he was there. I don't think she's necessary anymore.
I think she hurt Foley, just the way that they interacted, which they always have. When Triple H and Mick Foley, or Mick Foley and Steph are together, Foley's always getting the shit end of the stick. That's how it's been since the late 90s.
Absolutely. Steph has a very bad habit of always, like, getting real jabs in where she can, even if they're not, like, necessary to storylines. Like, even if she's on someone's side, she'll kind of, like, jab him if she gets the opportunity.
And she very rarely gets any comeuppance.
Yeah.
Never.
And she kind of did a little bit on Mania, but...
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. That day I was like, oh, they did it. Like, I just did not think they would do it.
Yeah.
Because she's kind of like the sacred McMahon. Like, really, she doesn't usually take a hit for the team. The rest of them will. But...
Not in the last 10 years. No. She did before. She did before.
Right. Yeah, she'd get stunned and all that type of stuff.
Sacrificed to the Undertaker and stuff. No.
Kidnapped on her wedding day.
Yeah. So she has in the past, but lately she's not untouchable.
So so that about does it. But before we go, we do have the bonus topic, which was selected by Scumbag today. So,
absolutely.
So to bring everybody up to speed, we have a bonus topic every week. It's actually last week we did a top 5, but it's selected by one of us. We don't tell the others, so it's kind of just like name your favorite this or whatever. So, Scumbag, take it away.
In honor of WrestleMania 33 and it being Taker's last match, I think it would be fitting to just throw out some of our favorite memories of him. Not necessarily your top 5, like your best thing ever, but something that you will always remember fondly about The Undertaker. Whether it be a match, a moment, a run, a feud, whatever. Do you guys have anything off the top of your head? Because I can go with...
Yeah, the one that always stands out for me, I don't know why it is, because I've always liked the undead version of The Undertaker better, not necessarily the American Badass.
Yeah.
But... he had, I don't know specifically when, but it was a ladder match he had with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
I think it was just a Raw.
I think it was in 2001.
And it was this just amazing match that, Hardy was really trying to come into his own as a singles guy. And at one point in the early 2000s, Jeff Hardy was one of the most popular guys on the show.
People wanted him to win that match.
And I think it comes down to that match with Undertaker. And now Jeff Hardy is showing up at WrestleMania 16 years later, still popular. I mean, I always go back to that Undertaker match, which was a fantastic match on top of really building Hardy up. But I don't know, for some reason that match always stuck out with me.
Was that the match that afterwards Jeff Hardy grabbed the mic and was like, "You beat me, but you didn't break me," and Undertaker goes in the ring and picks him up and just kind of slaps him on the face?
Yep.
Not like an attack, but just like, there you go,
like,
kid, and just walks him away.
Gave him a little nod there. I've always remembered that. I always thought that was great, and I can only imagine how many times he's done that for guys over the last 20, almost 30 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So that's one that always sticks out to me.
Absolutely. Do you have anything?
It's not vivid, unfortunately, but my dad took me to my first, not even just WWF, but wrestling event, and I believe it was either 1990 or like very early 91, and Undertaker had just debuted, like a 2, maybe 3 months prior. I think it was in '90 because he debuted Survivor Series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been like the end of '90, and I just remember like just being like, whoa, you know. I mean, I was a kid. I was like not even 4. I was just about to turn 4, and I just remember like, whoa, this is crazy. And I remember getting a Macho Man foam finger, but yeah. So to me, that'll always stick out, and you just seen him over the years. I read a great article the other day, and I can't remember who wrote it. I wish I could because I'd drop it, but they basically compared Undertaker to the like the mailman, where he's somebody that's always there. You don't really know him, but he's got that familiarity because he's just always been there. And that's what it was for wrestling. So when he was finally... I think the other night is going to stand out vividly forever because we talked about it, but then when it finally happened, it was like, oh, shit, like this is it. He's done.
He's not coming back.
And yeah, so it was... that for me, those 2 moments, I would say. Like the, so...
Absolutely. I have 2, and they kind of tie into each other. One is personal, but my favorite feud, probably of all time, is Mankind and The Undertaker. Starting back from Mankind's debut in '96, all the way up till they feuded until like '98. The King of the Ring Hell in a Cell match is probably, I'd say, the end of the feud. But they had an overarching like 2-year storyline, including like Buried Alive matches and Boiler Room brawls and.
Oh, was that in Providence? That was Backlash, right?
Yeah.
Or no, it was The Rock and Mankind.
No, yeah, you're thinking of
the... Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, that is one of my favorite feuds of all time. And the thing that ties into this is when I was 9 years old, I think, my aunt got front row tickets to a house show. And this was before I had really... I knew wrestling wasn't completely real, but I was still kind of scared. And the main event was announced that it was going to be The Undertaker and Mankind in a no-holds-barred match. And that feud scared me so much because those guys would brawl all over. And I was so scared that I was going to get hurt in that match that I faked being sick and said I couldn't go to that show.
You didn't go to it?
I did not go to a show.
You didn't go to that show?
It was one of my biggest regrets. I was so scared.
Do you know how much people would pay for those tickets now?
It was crazy, and it's really funny because the moment that scared me the most is it wasn't even an Undertaker Mankind thing. It was when Goldust was going to have I think the last call match or something with Undertaker. And Undertaker talked about like how he was going to put him in a casket and make him breathe his last breath, and it would be the end of Goldust. And I was like, Undertaker's going to kill a man.
So your favorite memory is a memory of
my
experience.
favorite memory is
how it made you feel.
Is how it made me feel. Like he put so much fear in me that I legitimately didn't go to a wrestling show because of how intimidating those guys were. And it's crazy that like just a character could do that to you. And man, I regret that. All I got was a shitty Savio Vega shirt.
Have you have you gone back and like tried to see if that match is on YouTube?
I don't know. It was a house show from Providence, so maybe it would be. I don't know.
Yeah, like the old Coliseum videos or something.
Maybe.
I almost want because like I'd be curious to see what that match looks like.
I would love to. Like now, like even a year later, I was like, man, I should have went to that. I know they wouldn't have hurt the fan. Like, right, but in my head, I was like, they're in a blood feud. They're just so angry with each other. They don't care who they hurt in the way.
That's hilarious. I did not expect that. Like.
No. There's a podcast I listen to featuring Marty DeRosa and Sarah Shockey, and they do this thing called Wrestling Confessions, and I wrote it into them, and they said it was their favorite one they ever heard.
That's like the time
awesome.
I got selected. Nickelodeon on tour came to town.
Yeah.
And I got selected to climb the crag.
Really?
I had like a meltdown.
Dude, it was
I had a meltdown. I was like, because I was like, I didn't think I was going to be able to find my way back to my parents. So I had this meltdown. And I was like, I can't climb the crag. I got like 10 feet up on it. Like, ah!
Dude, but that's
glitter blasted.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite Undertaker memories. Just the feud with Mankind and how it affected my real life. So that I missed out on a great event and got a shitty Savio Vega shirt because I didn't go.
So who went?
My aunt, and I think she took
just some random kid.
Somebody.
She just found a child.
She just was taking out children on the street of Providence. You come with me.
I'm so glad you went last because that was the perfect ending. So that does it for episode 11. And
check us out on Facebook.
We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Facebook's the Authority on Wrestling. YouTube's
Authority on Wrestling, and on Twitter we are AOW Podcast.
Okay. All right, so you can find us on all that. Big shout out and thank you to Ryan again from the Average Nobody's Podcast. That's a pop culture podcast, so they cover wrestling, but they cover.
Are you guys on
Yeah, we're on Twitter at Average Nobodies, which is the Twitter account that I run. It's me and my friend Matt. He has his own personal one, but I run the Average Nobodies one. I try my best every week to live tweet Raw, and then I write for Top Rope Press too. But Average Nobodies all over the social.
We'll
medias.
link them all on our pages too, and then his Top Rope Press column, obviously. So, in fact, let's see if we can get that posted weekly because you do one every Thursday.
Yeah, so I write it. It's up by 9:15 on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I usually tweet it out, and I sometimes put it on Facebook, depending on if I remember. But
yeah, we'll clear up the logistics of that.
Yeah,
I
so
can post that on our site.
Yeah, so we'll definitely get that up there, and hopefully we'll have Ryan on again before too long.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
And, I really appreciate you having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
If you can end a day talking wrestling, it's a good day.
It's a good day. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week, or talk to you next. I don't know, something next week.
Bye.
All right.